The 2020 election results changed our lives forever. It impacted our quality of life, cost of food, gasoline, safety, and even the geopolitical landscape. America is more divided today than ever before. It has become increasingly apparent that there are significant challenges to free speech, as demonstrated by the efforts to silence my husband.
So Michael Popok, Legal AF. Well, we have it. The October surprise is Melania Trump has dropped a new book coming out October 8th called Melania, a memoir. Should be in the fiction section. And yes, for those that are wondering at home, that was her voice. She is narrating her own audiobook. And you might be saying to yourself, I don't think I've ever heard her speak. And that's true, because for 4 years, she was our worst first lady, having abdicated all responsibility as a first lady. I mean, sure, she wore couture clothing well, I guess, but everything else about her being the first lady was she was completely the invisible woman. And that's why you don't know what she sounds like, but you do now. And there's a couple of things just in that clip. I haven't gotten my hands on the entire memoir yet. I will. I love the start of it. The 2020 election has changed our lives forever. First of all, she's basically conceded something that her husband to this day hasn't, that the election results were legitimate and that there was a change in the presidency to Joe Biden. Now, she can do her own critique and commentary about what she thinks happened about it, completely ignoring that it was Donald Trump who wrecked the economy, who saddled the country with debt, who did not invest in our infrastructure, who did not properly take COVID seriously, who was not responsible for the $3 trillion COVID package that got the country and the country's economic engine restarted. Everything he did left us in a better and worse place, including, by the way, your 401k. Your 401k, if that's what is driving your vote, is doing much better now than it did under Donald Trump. And there's more jobs that were created by a lot by the Biden-Harris administration and every other economic indicator that matters, except for this post-COVID inflation that has now started substantially to trend down, is better under Biden and Harris than under Trump, but not to Melania. And then she finally, and you heard that clip, she finally gets to the point that she wants to make. First Amendment rights are under attack, and she uses as an example the people going after her husband. Here's what's missing from the memoir, from those that have read it and got early advance copies of it. Any mention of Donald Trump's sexual misconduct while he was married to Melania Trump. That includes no mention of E. Jean Carroll and the 2 separate juries of 9 people in federal court in New York, where she resides, that found Donald Trump to have sexually assaulted, abused, and technically raped E. Jean Carroll under New York law, defamed her, and committed punitive and is responsible for punitive damages against her. No mention of that. No mention of Stormy Daniels. No mention of the other beauty queens that he's molested or had sex with outside the marriage. No mention of Jessica Leeds, the woman who testified convincingly, authentically, under oath in front of those juries that she was molested and sexually attacked by Donald Trump on an airplane. She didn't even know who he was. No mention of Natasha Stoyanovich, who was a reporter for People magazine, who after Melania conveniently left the room when she was doing a profile of their new marriage, Donald Trump shoved her up against a wall and attacked her. And tried to jam his tongue down her throat. No mention of Access Hollywood and the hot mic moment in which Donald Trump said he could jam his tongue down other women's throats and get away with it because he's a celebrity, and grab their P word and get away with it because he's a celebrity. No mention of the $500 million running with interest judgment because her husband's company, and therefore all of her wealth, all is blood money, the result of fraud, perpetual fraud, systemic fraud in New York over the last 10 years. No mention of that. No mention of 5 different juries indicting Donald Trump for various crimes involving the election, involving hush money cover-up involving business record fraud, involving tax fraud, involving election interference, and the rest. No mention of those 5 grand juries. No mention of the special purpose grand jury in Georgia who recommended the indictment of Donald Trump. No mention of all of the other crimes and convictions that she is as responsible, as far as I'm concerned, in supporting and enabling her husband as Donald Trump. No, to her, the focus should be, talk about a lack of self-awareness, the focus should be on how many times Donald Trump's been appropriately gagged as a condition of his release so that he, after arraignment, although he didn't get put into jail, he was allowed out on conditions of not attacking the criminal justice system, not attacking witnesses, not attacking judges and their staff. And for that is some impingement on Donald Trump's unfettered First Amendment right. Now, I know that Melania doesn't come from this country originally. She's not a natural-born citizen. She came from Slovenia. I don't really know, I'm not really familiar with the comparative justice system or First Amendment issues, but I got to guess that Slovenia doesn't recognize in its constitution our First Amendment rights, nor does it have our criminal justice system. Yet Melania likes to be a commentator about these issues. So she completely buries her head in the sand, wants us to ignore what is so obvious in front of us, that her husband is a serial fabulist, liar, fraudster, sex abuser, misogynist, and racist. But buy her book. Buy her book. I'm surprised she didn't title the book, I Don't Care. Do you? I mean, she wore that heartless, callous jacket, that fatigue jacket going up Air Force One right at the moment when the debate in American society was about whether migrant children should be in cages or not and separated from their families. And she wore, I don't care. Do you? I mean, could you imagine if Michelle Obama wore that? Or Dr. Jill Biden wore that? Can you imagine the outcry, the hue and outcry in the Republican Party and in MAGA? They lost their shit when Barack Obama wore a tan suit, when he didn't wear his suit jacket in the Oval Office. There was entire weeks that Fox News couldn't think straight because of Obama's suit choices. Or when he and his wife, early on in their administration, after he came off the stage, they gave each other a fist bump. They called it a terrorist fist bump. Oh, those were the days. Did you know that 4 companies control over 80% of the U.S. meat industry? I had no idea. These companies are using mobster-like tactics to crush American family farms, and with the additives they're putting into our food, Americans are stuck with sketchy meat. And would it surprise you to know that 99% of the chicken, 95% of the pork, and 78% of cattle are raised in feedlot or confinement buildings? I was shocked. So what can we do about it? Let me tell you about a company that's coming up swinging on behalf of American family farms and your family's food security. Moink. Their farmers are given an honest day's pay for an honest day's work, and they deliver meat straight to your doorstep at prices you can actually afford. Keep American family farms farming by joining the Moink movement today at moinkbox.com/legalaf. Sign up today and get free hot rolls in your first order, spelled MOINK, box.com/legalaf. Oink, oink, get moinked. Moinkbox.com/legalaf. But now we've got Melania Trump, obviously desperate for money. I mean, let's be frank. I did a hot take about they're out of gas as a family, as a crime family, as a grifting family, as a fraud family. Ever since the New York Judge Engoron, placed successfully, and it survived appeal, a financial monitor on everything related to Donald Trump's financial affairs and his Trump organization and his trust, they haven't done any new deals. They have not done any new deals. They're living off of old money, and their old money's running out. I mean, they're getting a stream of income from golf courses that still want to use his name that he owns. He's getting some licensing deals to use his name and his brand, but outside the United States, in Dubai and Oman and different places like that, led by Jared Kushner and his fund that has a lot of Saudi blood money invested in it. Nobody in America wants to have the Trump name on any project. People in New York are paying good money, their own money, to take his name off the building that they bought a condo in or a co-op in. That's how sullied that name is. So they're not making any new money. That's why Donald Trump and Melania have to do books and memoirs and trading cards and non-fungible tokens, NFTs, and deal with crypto and sell sneakers out of a van and sell Bibles and literally sell the suit off of Donald Trump's back. Little pieces of his suit that he wore when he was arraigned. That'll look good in his obituary. Little pieces of suit that he wore when he debated Joe Biden. I'm surprised, I really am, that he hasn't tried to monetize and sell the clothing he was wearing or the ear bandage he was wearing after Butler, Pennsylvania. Seriously. So now what does Melania have to do? She has to go out and do NFTs. She has to, and make no money. She has to go out and try to raise several $1 million to pay for her, her handbag expense account. Or I don't know, whatever Barron needs at NYU where he's going to college, whatever's in his backpack. So that's what we're left with. We're just watching. And this isn't sustainable or reproducible. I mean, this type of Bible sales and sneaker sales and memoirs. How many memoirs can you write? Donald Trump listed on his disclosure that he made $7 million on a book that was just letters that other people wrote him. It wasn't even his responses. It was letters to President Trump. Literally, other people wrote the book. And he got $7 million. He finds a way to squeeze out all these ridiculous dollars. They have to do this. The book is also right on the heels of a disastrous stock crash for the Trump Truth Social Media Technology Group. It's now down to below $20 a share, heading like a plummeting. It's just sinking like the Titanic and heading towards the original $10 offering price. I mean, at one point it was high flying. It was worth like $54 a share, which meant that Donald Trump was a billionaire like 4 or 5 times over. It's now almost 500% down. And who got crushed in there besides Donald Trump, who's barely holding on to that billion? That's why he dropped out of the Forbes magazine top 400. You know what? He's barely holding on to that. And it's going to go below that. I mean, by the time this thing is done and Donald Trump gets sentenced on the November the 28th or 26th, right before Thanksgiving, that stock's going to go down to below $10. And all the little widows and orphans and other retail investors that invested to support Donald Trump are going to get crushed. And if they put their life savings in it, they're all going to get wiped out. We're all going to get wiped out. I don't say it with glee. I'm just pointing out facts. It's observational. It's not opinion about what's going on. So the fact that Melania is trying to make $2, $3, or $5 million selling some book and some audiobook, I want to get the audiobook just to hear her speak for 3 hours with the way that she speaks and the way she completely lacks self-awareness, has buried her head in the sand. She reminds me, I was a big Sopranos fan on HBO. And, there's that whole arc of the story where Carmela, the wife of Tony Soprano, finally can't live with herself any longer when she has to come and look in the mirror that all of her wealth, the trappings of her lifestyle, her wealth, her purses, her country clubs, her house, her decorating, her trips, her cash, everything else comes from blood money, comes from organized crime. And she can't live with herself anymore. And she has to make peace with herself. And she does that through her religious beliefs. Where's Melania's come to Jesus moment? Where's her recognition that she's living a lie? And she always has. That her husband is faithful, that there's fidelity in the marriage, that their money is not a house of cards, a financial house of cards based on fraud and based effectively on a Ponzi scheme where they're just taking money in from other suckers in order to pay it out to other suckers in the form of lawyers to pay for the legal fees. We're going to follow it all Everything related to Melania and the marriage, the fact that she never campaigns for him, even when the campaigning is in her home, right at Mar-a-Lago, or how Donald Trump embarrasses her by talking about all the women that he sexually abused and sexually assaulted right in the lobby of where they live in Trump Tower in New York. We'll do it all on the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF. That's Legal AF. Find out what 40 million people already know, and that is that we are the home for law and politics and analysis. And I think it's the only place on the dial on YouTube that does it the way we do it. Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Wednesdays, I do the show with Karen Friedman, Nick Nifolo. Saturdays with Ben Meiselas. And then audio podcasts, just plug in. There's our album cover again. Plug in Legal AF and you'll find us there. So until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting. Heary, heary, Legal AF Law Breakdown is now in session. Go beyond the headlines and get a deep dive into the important legal concepts you need to know and we discuss every day on Legal AF. Exclusive content you won't find anywhere else, all for the price of a couple of cups of coffee. Join us at patreon.com/legalaf. That's patreon.com/legalaf.